if you prayed to God for resilience, for strength, for motivation, how do you think he would present it to you? You think God would just, instill you with all of these traits, or do you think he would place challenges in front of you, and going through those challenges is what enabled you to develop the traits on the backside of it?
Welcome to the Infinite Grit Podcast. This is the show for those preparing to earn their place in special operations and other elite tactical careers. We break down the training, mindset, and strategies required to get selected and continue performing long term. These are proven principles to help you build the body, the mind, and resilience to step into the fight.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Infinite Grit Podcast. And today, to kick it off, I want to be real with you. Many of you guys struggle with procrastination and anxiety because you don't truly believe that reaching the goal is possible for you. And I understand this better than I wish I did, because I was in that same position prior to going to Special Forces selection. I didn't truly believe that I had what it takes to be successful until I had an experience that kind of turned around. And we're going to be diving into that today, but there's two main reasons why I wanted to touch on this topic today. Number one is because for some reason, this is usually the time of year that guys have a lot of doubt creeping up. Maybe it's because the sun goes down earlier, nights are longer, we're inside, isolated a little bit more, or maybe because we, are spending more time with our family or potentially with people who might not support us in our endeavor, and they plant that seed of doubt when we bring it up. Whatever the case is, it is something that I see quite often. And I see it from guys who are running like 13-minute 2 miles. They're crushing 35-minute 5 miles. Like, these guys are very physically capable of going out there and performing, but I still see messages and comments and all this stuff. Like, I have a lot of doubt associated with it. And to me, I understand where they're coming from, but taking an objective stance, I'm like, dude, you're crushing it. Like, you have what it takes to go do it. You just have to commit to it and truly believe it yourself. And number two is because over the last couple of weeks, my life has been absolutely crazy. We took in my niece and nephew, and they're 3 and about to turn 5 years old. So learning for the first time in my life how to be around children, which has been an experience. But a couple of days ago, I took the older one, the boy, to Target to go pick out a toy. And we looked at dinosaurs and all this stuff, and we got to the sports section of Target, and I was pumped because he goes, "Ooh, I want this." And I looked down, and it was a archery set. So I'm like, hell yeah, man, we're going to turn this kid into a freaking hunter. Well, we get back home. I set up the target. I'm kind of walking him through how a bow even works, how to shoot the bow. And jokingly, I asked him, I was like, "You think you can hit the target?" And he looks at me like I have a third eye growing out of my forehead, like I'm an absolute idiot. And he's like, "Yeah, I can hit the target." Like, duh. And it kind of struck me, and it made me laugh because he had such a resounding belief that was not really founded in anything that he was able to hit the target. Now, did he hit the target on that first try? Absolutely not. He was terrible. He sucked for like 2 days, but he's been getting better. And now every fourth or fifth shot, he'll hit the target. And you can see his confidence with it. You can see his muscle memory, getting the arrow in, knocking it, pulling back the string. And it's starting to come together to where hitting that target is very achievable for him. And I bring this up because I think somewhere along the line of like being a child and having like almost like a unfounded, unreasonable belief in our capabilities to go do things, and being an adult, we lose all of that belief in ourselves. And maybe it's that story we told ourselves that entire time we were coming up, or the experiences we had. Maybe we had a situation where we experienced some failure and we were embarrassed by it. So now we're protecting our ego, and we're, limiting ourselves, limiting the exposure of that from ourselves. But somewhere along that way, we stop believing that those things are achievable, and we start thinking more realistically about things. When we think about going special forces, we think realistically about it. And we instead of viewing the vision and seeing ourselves kitted up on a team, going to action and objective, we view ourselves sweeping a hallway because we didn't make it at selection. Like that is what permeates our minds. And for those individuals who think like that and constantly dwell on the negative, and like I said, I was one of them for a period of time, it becomes very challenging to get the work in, to get the sessions in, to train, to eat well, because what's the point? What's the point of doing all this stuff if you don't truly believe it's possible for you? And I believe that there's two things that took place. But first, that belief is a choice, that you choose to believe that it is possible for you. It's not something you are inherently, well, you are inherently born with, but like I said, you lose it along the way, but it's not something that you just have forever, this like unshakable confidence. Everyone has these intrusive thoughts, but we can choose to believe. But it's not just one decision. It's a decision made on a daily basis when those intrusive thoughts come in, when we're presented with the anxiety or the resistance to go do what we know we need to do. Those are where the decisions matter. And when we string enough of those decisions together, then we start to develop that deep, resounding belief in our capability to go do it. And we're much more likely to go action it. And I say that I understand this very deeply because I was this same kid, man. I joined the Army at 18. Prior to joining the Army, I lived with my stepfather, who was a Green Beret. He got out prior to us meeting him, but he planted the seed for me wanting to go Special Forces. So when I joined at 18, I knew my ultimate goal in the Army was to go to Special Forces Assessment Selection. Well, I was too young, so ended up in another career, ended up in the 160th, and was training hard for those first 1-2 years. And I always had these like self-deprecating thoughts. I didn't really believe it was possible for me. I wanted to fill his shoes. Like I want to do all this stuff, but I didn't have this like belief that I was capable of doing it. I was like, I'm going to try it, but I don't know how it's going to turn out. Like I have had backup plans on backup plans, like just never really believed. And I think it stemmed a little bit out of wanting to be humble. I think a lot of times when we hear like you have to be humble, we misconstrue that to think that being humble means being self-deprecating, that we have to downplay our capabilities. That's not the case. And in my situation, whenever someone said, "Oh, you're going to crush it," like you're going to I know you're going to become a Green Beret, all that stuff, I would immediately like downplay that. Like, I don't know, like it's going to be tough. I don't know if I can find my points, whatever. I don't know if I can do it. I would always say these self-deprecating thoughts, thinking I was being humble, but I wasn't. I was just focusing placing my focus on an area that is detrimental to everything overall. And the thing that changed it was one of my good friends, Mauro. He was my roommate in the barracks out at Fort Huachuca. Shout out to Mauro if you're watching this, brother. But he was a little bit older than me, kind of a more spiritual guy than I was, especially growing up. And he understood already that what we focus on controls our lives. So when I was in the barracks and we would have conversations about it, maybe I skipped a workout because, I was feeling that anxiety, or I would say some self-deprecating comment while we're cooking dinner in the kitchen, he would immediately stop me. He would scold me and he wouldn't let me out of the conversation until I said, "I've already made it." He literally like, I can't say it, like I haven't made it. Like I was trying to be rational. I haven't made it yet. But he would literally make me say, "I've already made it. I've already made it. I've already made it." On just like a regular Wednesday night. So I would walk back into my room from that conversation and my thought process was a little bit different. I started to notice that when I said things like, "I've already made it," like I'm a Green Beret. Like when I started thinking like that, I genuinely started to believe that it was possible. I held my chin a little bit higher. My shoulders were a little bit more back and I was standing upright. And I was motivated to get the work in because that anxiety, that resistance in front of the actions that I know needed to take place for me to be successful there was gone because I truly believed that I was capable of doing it. And I noticed that over time of doing this, I would still say things to him, and every single time he would scold me, and the time I would say things and these intrusive thoughts that would come up in my mind started to get spaced out further and further and further until I got to the point where I was like, okay, I can fucking do this. Like, I can do this. And that's when, everything started to get a little bit more serious. And then I ended up going to selection and thankfully made it. So in my experience, do I think that you have to vision this stuff and have positive thoughts 100% of the time to be successful? No, but I don't think the negative thoughts help you in any way. So why not focus on the positive aspects of what we're going to do? If we want to achieve a goal, then why not focus on the positive outcome of that goal? Because if we focus on the negative, we put more energy into that failure, I promise you, it becomes much more likely to happen. So procrastination is a symptom. It is not the main thing. When guys say, I'm a procrastinator, it's not a definition of somebody. You tend to procrastinate, but when we pull back the veil of the reasons why someone might be procrastinating, the majority of the time it's because they feel a lot of anxiety around the potential outcome, or they don't truly believe that they're capable of achieving it. So what's the point? And they allow for those intrusive thoughts to start taking hold and control their actions, which is when they become very dangerous. And so this week, as you go throughout the week, when you get your training sessions in, when the alarm goes off in the morning, and you have those intrusive thoughts, I want you to think back to this and have the unreasonable belief of a 5-year-old that you are able to do this, that you are able to be successful, and focus on the positive outcome, because I promise you the potential for it exists. Is it 100%? No, absolutely not. Nothing is 100%, especially things that are worth doing. They're not a 100% give me. But if you focus on the potential of that success, then it becomes much more likely. And then in addition to that, when you see the procrastination come up, when you see the resistance to go get those training sessions in, view that as an opportunity to build the resilience that you want to have. A lot of guys say that they struggle with resilience, they struggle with staying consistent, they struggle with motivation, they struggle with all this stuff. But the very first time they're presented with this anxiety or the resistance to go get a training session, and they cave to it, and they sit on their couch and they freaking scroll on their phone or turn on the new Battlefield game, whatever. That is not a way to build resilience. Like if you prayed to God for resilience, for strength, for motivation, how do you think he would present it to you? You think God would just, instill you with all of these traits? Or do you think he would place challenges in front of you, and going through those challenges is what enabled you to develop the traits on the backside of it? So when you see when you notice the resistance, when you notice the desire to procrastinate, view that as an opportunity to build the resilience that is going to carry you through the course when you get there. So that is the task for this week. But I just wanted to share that with you guys, and then we will dive into a couple questions. So first question is, with hindsight being 2020, hindsight's always 2020, what was something you'd tell your younger self while being in your training development stage? So on the front side of going to a course, on the front side of pursuing a career. And for me, I think if I could talk to that 20-year-old kid that was 2 years away from going to selection, I would say, focus on establishing a system that enables you to do the actions on a daily basis. Do not worry about the outcome. The outcome will take care of itself. I promise. If you focus on doing the things on a daily basis that move you in the trajectory of that. I think so often we can live in the future, especially myself. Like I'm the freaking pot calling the kettle black right now. Like we can live in the future when we have a lot of these big aspirations. We have this like vision of what we're going to do. I'm going to be a freaking operator. I'm going to, be faster open out airplanes. I'm going to live in this house. I'm going to do this. We have these future aspirations, and we allow it to pull us from the current moment. It's good to have goals. It's good to have an idea and a clear picture of what you want to achieve, but don't live there constantly. Work for that. So focus on the actions you need to take on a daily basis. And I promise you the result will take care of itself, and you'll be glad you did because you're a little bit more present. You have more fun throughout that process. Like, I know everyone just wants to get to the goal, but when I look back at like training up for selection, going through selection, going through the Q course, graduating the Q course, spending time, like all, it was some of the most transformational years of my life. And I made a lot of really good friends. You're going through these hard experiences with good people. You laugh, you're going through extremely painful situations and you freaking ruck flop at the end and you finally made it to your objective and you're like, whew, you start laughing. You're like, that was terrible. You really developed some amazing friendships. And I think if you view that as not just a stepping stone to get to where you want to be, but as a way to develop you into the person that you want to be in the future, I think you can change your mindset on a little bit. And that is exactly what I would tell myself if I were, my younger self going through that process again, is be in the moment a little bit more. Don't just worry about the end state. Like, enjoy your time, enjoy the relationships, the information you're learning, the transformation that you're going through, because you are pushing yourself hard. And like I said, it is some of the most transformational years of your entire life. Next question is, if you could give only one, if you could only give one piece of advice to someone who is thinking about getting into special forces, what would that be? Aside from what I just said, I would say take pride in your ability to learn information. I think, I've talked about on the podcast multiple times how I failed EOD school when I was 18 years old. And the reason was I was stuck in that like high school mindset of the nerdy guys, the guys that prioritize, classwork and stuff like that are nerds. I never bullied anybody, but that there was like that almost stigma for like staying after class and studying and trying to put more work and retain the information on the weekends. Like, there was that stigma. When you go into the pipeline, like, drop that shit, because it is all about your ability to retain information. The best guys on a team are seldom just the most capable, like physically. The best guys on the team are really good thinkers. They're really good problem solvers. They're really good at sourcing equipment, sourcing information. My senior Charlie, who's a coach on our team, Chris, I always say he's like 10 times the 18 Charlie than I was, because he was a great thinker. He was great at solving those problems. He was great at working with people, at thinking 2 steps ahead, 3 steps ahead. And that comes with the ability and the prioritization of information, not just the physical attributes that you're taking into these environments. Next is, how can I better practice for land navigation and ruck techniques for getting good times? So for land navigation, going into the 18X pipeline, I always tell guys this, like, by the time you get to the STAR course, you're probably going to be sick of land navigation. You're going to get a little bit of land nav exposure throughout OSET. It's absolutely terrible land nav training for the most part, in most cases. You'll probably get some exposure out of Area J when you get to Fort Bragg if you choose to. You'll definitely get some training out of SFPC or the prep course, and you'll actually take a test during that. So they will make sure what you're doing prior to going to selection. And then during gate week at selection, you'll have land navigation classes, which to this day were still some of the best classes that I had in land navigation. And then you will go out to Hoffman training area. You'll have 2 days of day and night practical exercises before you ever step foot in the STAR course and the clock starts ticking. So you are going to get a lot of land navigation exposure. Like, I promise you, they're not going to send you off on the STAR course without understanding how to read a map, plot a point, plan a route, intersection, resection, all that stuff, right? The thing that they cannot instill with you in that short period of time is comfortability in the woods. So for somebody who is maybe a civilian on the front side of going 18X, you can get Dr. Walton's Never Get Lost book that teaches you the fundamentals of land navigation, the book work. But I recommend just spending time in the environment. If you got some buddies that want to go camping, you got some buddies that hunt, maybe you can tag along on a hunt with them. If you're in a Western state, like, even better, because there's a lot more land that you can go explore out there. Spend time in the outdoors, because That comfortability in the outdoors is going to enable you to make better decisions and implement the information that you learn much more efficiently when you do get to selection. Next question is, how do you stay composed and not get overwhelmed with all the demands going into SF and meeting the standard? Understand. Okay, how do you stay composed? I would say the first thing is to understand the few things that you absolutely have to do to be successful in Special Forces selection. We know we got to train, we know we got to eat well, we got to sleep well, and that's basically it, right? Not tying and land navigation, that's all great. But if you don't have the time for it, like you can still be successful without those things. I didn't freaking, I talk about this regularly. I sucked at tying knots. Like I'm not saying to neglect it intentionally, but if you're like overwhelmed, you have very limited time, you have 3 kids at the house and you're just trying to fit in your training and get to selection and be successful, like focus on the non-negotiables: training, nutrition, recovery. If you can train 60 to 90 minutes, depending on the day. So whether it's a strength session, 60 minutes, or whether it's a endurance session, up to 90 minutes, sometimes up to 2 hours, depending on like once per week for a long ruck. If you can commit that for 5 to 6 days a week for a prolonged period of time, like you are going to be, in a position to be physically capable of passing selection. You don't have to spend 6-7 hours a day preparing for selection. And if you are, I would say you're probably spending too much time, and the likelihood of you getting burnt out before you even go to selection is very high. So sit down, plan out your week, identify the main things that you need to do, and then remove all the other shit. So if you can train, if you can eat well, if you can sleep well, after those things are done and you've prioritized them and completed them on a daily basis, go do the things that you want to do. If you train in the morning, you work all day, you get off at 5, you have your dinner, you freaking did some mobility, you accomplished everything that you wanted to do for the day, and you have 7 to 9 to freaking chill. Like, do what you want to do. If you want to play Battlefield for an hour, play Battlefield. Like, it doesn't matter. You just have to do the things that are going to move the ball forward to reaching that goal. Next question is, I developed some abrasions on my back from the Alice pack. Somewhat common with the Alice pack, especially if the pad's riding a little bit different. But I remember y'all talking about that somewhere, but don't remember where. So do you have any strategies or improving that pad that will be acceptable at SFAS? Do you have an overall guidance on preventing abrasions on my lower back? So first off, you're not going to be able to use an Alice pack at SFAS. The ruck that you will be using there is the Molly 2 or the newer Molly, which everyone says sucks. I have not worn it, so I can't speak personally, but I would suggest if you can bring in a Molly 2 ruck, because you can also adjust that up and down on the frame. During gate week, when you're doing those timed rucks, even during land navigation a bit, you want that a little bit higher up on that frame. And then when you go to team week, you actually want to adjust that frame down in the barracks prior to, so that when you do those high carries and you have the log on your back, it doesn't just sit on the back of your head or the back of your neck because your ruck is too high. So that ability to move the ruck up and down on the frame is really nice. You're also just not going to be able to use an Alice pack. For me, I actually experience this myself. I have these love handles that no matter how lean I get, it seems like I can't get rid of them. And whenever I ruck, especially with a Molly 2 ruck, they rub and I will get some spots there. So what I personally do is play with the fitting of the ruck. You can move it up, down, left, right, not left or right, but up, down, and pack it so the weight is up high and close to your shoulder blades. It's not shifting a whole bunch. It's nice tight on your back, but also put some Body Glide there. I use Body Glide. You can find it on Amazon. It's like a deodorant looking stick for about $10. I put it on my thighs, in between my ass cheeks, like on my lower back, anywhere that I have the potential of chafing, I will put some Body Glide there. So I recommend trying some Body Glide in there. And then you can also use something like Leukotape on that area if the Body Glide doesn't work and you want to make sure that it's not going to become an abrasion again. Next question is, how do you keep yourself from gassing out completely while trying to hit those timed runs and rucks? So the conditioning will definitely come into effect. Also, especially on the 2 mile run, the strategy with it a little bit. If you know you're doing a 2 mile run, like on the initial PT test, I always recommend doing like negative splits. So if I know that I can typically run a 13-minute 2 mile and I want to at least be below that 13-minute 2 mile because that's like my PR right now, I will run that first mile in about 6:20 to 6:25. So just under that 6:30 pace or that 13 minute 2 mile pace. Then as I get deeper into the run, about a mile or about a half mile out, that's when I'll really open it up and I'll try to drive it down and then I'll finish strong, almost throwing up across the finish line. But as far as like gassing out, strategy, breathing all come into play, but don't go into these events or go into selection or the 2 mile run and ever expect it to be easy. Like it's not going to be easy. I promise you. If you are somebody who runs a 16-minute 2 mile or you are someone who runs a 12-minute 2 mile, the pain that they experience is pretty freaking similar. The only thing that changes is how fast they're running those distances, right? The pain that someone experiences who crushes a ruck at selection versus the pain that someone experiences who really, was struggling to keep up is going to be similar. It's just their level of conditioning results in a different outcome. So don't think that you're ever going to get to the point where you do these timed runs and rucks and you feel great, like you're not gassed out. You are going to be gassed out. But if you're like bonking it to where your pace is just slowing and is wrecked on the back half of those runs, then we want to look at the strategy a little bit, look at your past runs, your past numbers, and then keep those splits earlier on in the race or the run, that negative split, and then speed it up on the backside. So other than that, guys, that is all I got today. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Remember, this week, anytime you have that procrastination or that resistance to get those sessions in pop up, that is an opportunity to build the resilience that we are all seeking. With that, wish you guys a great week, and I'll speak with you very soon.